In audio processing, a compressor is a tool that reduces dynamic range. On a compressor, there are various parameters that allow you to control both dynamics of the signal and the behavior of the compressor itself. To control the dynamics of an input signal, every manual compressor will have three controls: threshold, ratio, and makeup gain. Threshold is the level at which the compressor begins to affect the input signal and is measured in decibels. Ratio is a parameter which determines how much compression is applied to a signal once it is above the threshold. This is expressed as a ratio of input amplitude to output amplitude. Makeup gain is post-compression or output gain, which can be used to increase the gain of the overall sound. On many compressors, a control called soft knee can be found. I'll explain this. Applying a soft knee changes the onset of the compression so that it's gradual and not immediate. So for example, if a ratio of 3:1 is set with a soft knee, then the ratio for every part of the signal that approaches the threshold will increase from 1 to 3 over a very small period of time. That period of time can be extended by applying more soft knee value. This parameter is not to be confused with the attack time control, which affects the time it takes for the compressor to turn on. Speaking of envelopes, in addition to attack, the release control determines how long the compressor takes to close after the input has fallen below the threshold. Advanced compressors will feature a look-ahead control, which can be utilized when dealing with more transient sounds. Many will say this function can see into the future, but this is not true. What it actually does is split the signal into two channels, mutes the first one and delays the second one by a fraction of a second. The signal is analyzed through the first undelayed channel and compressed on the second delayed channel. The idea behind this is obviously so that the signal can be analyzed before it's compressed. If the look-ahead feature is enabled, the analysis from the first channel will affect the compression envelope on the second channel, choosing the most appropriate setting for the waveform. Now, let's go over what saturation is. In the digital domain, when an audio signal rises above 0 decibels, it clips. This means that the amplitude of the signal has passed the system's digital amplitude limit, and as a result, the waveform is squared off. Applying soft saturation merely rounds off the square edges caused by clipping. Note the sine wave has now effectively become a square wave. Given that every waveform can be created using multiple sine waves, it stands to reason that every waveform is merely a collection of sine waves at different frequencies and amplitudes, also known as harmonics or multiples. From that we can deduce that the horrible sound of a clipping signal is a result of the conversion of sine waves to square waves by means of increasing amplitude and digital limiting. Now, overcompression is a common mistake made by many today, merely because they don't understand compression and its application. What many tend to do is pull the threshold down to a point where it's always below the input signal. This is bad compression. If you understand compression, you will know that the ratio parameter dictates the ratio of volume in to volume out, but that applies to every part of the signal above the threshold. So if all of your signal amplitude is above the threshold, then by turning up the ratio, you're just turning down the volume of the whole sound. So remember, compression should only be used to affect particular transients in your waveform, and not your whole waveform.